So who should start then? Okay. So this is one of the exceptional moments that I'll be happy to ask you questions perhaps, or to share first some reflection before we get into this conversation. So before I come here, I just checked if you are a member of the Race to Zero Alliance, and I'm comfortable to say that you are, because in this very room, there was a very interesting report that came out from the UN system by Minister McKenna and her colleagues about pledges, talking about fashion, garment, clothing. So the issue of greenwashing was raised, and the new system and the new criteria for adhering to standards, verifying the pledges, and disclosing the information being shared now with good tasks to the UNFCCC and beyond in the UN system to do more in this front. So, are you comfortable with this news? Are you happy to see new standards set and more verification to what you are pledging to do?
Now should go, yeah. First of all, thank you very much for having me in this conversation, and great opportunity for us to talk about what we are doing. We as H&M Group truly welcome legislations because that's the only way we can harmonize the action. So from my side, we always have been impact-based. When we set up our climate and other environmental impact areas, we always based in science. So for me, it's great. The regulations are coming clearer, regulations are becoming more comparable also, because then we know what do we do, whom do we be compared with, and what is legal framework. We have never been targeting to be on legal level because this is a hygiene factor, right? You need to be more further than legal to be able to lead the change. So our ambition in H&M Group has been that how can we even better always than legislations. But now also seeing the challenging environment around us, I think this harmonization and asking for clear impact declarations are great.
Right, this is very comforting and to know, and actually you'll enjoy this new world after this new report on how to verify better the pledges and the new standards. But let me share with you some statistics, not just, you know your statistics as a big name in the industry, but let me share with you some statistics on the industry at large. Based on my colleagues' updates here, say the global fashion industry is valued at 1.7 trillion as of 2022, quite sizable. Decent fraction of the global economy, if you assume that the global GDP is around 100 trillion, so this is a decent part of it, talking just about one part of one industry. That's great. But at the same time, we need 1 trillion in order to bridge the gaps of investments needed to decarbonize the industry by 2050. So they say that you need the following: 380 billion for renewable electricity, 270 billion next generation materials, 18 billion sustainable materials, 150 billion plus for phasing out from coal, and 22 billion on energy efficiency. So you have your fair share of the $1 trillion to spend for the next 30 years. If you want to speak on behalf of the industry, fine.
I can't speak on behalf. I will not speak on behalf of industry, but I can of course speak on behalf of H&M Group.
Okay, that's
great work what you have done. I mean,
sure.
what we have done. Basically, beginning of this year, we came out with our vision to say we want to go down 56% of our emissions by 2030 by doubling our revenues. So we basically put growth next to sustainability. So when we are a growing company, we still want to continue decreasing our emissions 56% by 2030 and 90% by 2040 towards net zero. So this is a pretty ambitious goal, especially thinking about economic environment around us and also the challenges with emissions. To be able to enable that, we have created our methodology, how we do this. The first step is account and declare where we are, what is our emissions about. And here, I'm not only talking about scope 1 and 2, I'm talking about scope 3 as well. I've been with the company 22 years, 20 years in sourcing, 2 years in sustainability. So I've been living and working in all our production sourcing countries. So mainly, we all know that the biggest part of emissions coming from our sourcing processes. Sorry for this, something flying.
It's a persistent creature, yeah.
So, I mean, what we have done, we declare our emissions and then we put a plan on how do we do reductions. That's a very comprehensive plan. It's not only we will work with investment, but we also need to change our business model. So linear fashion needs to change to circular fashion for us to be able to operate, still earn money, but also make it sure that we are decoupling our growth from resource use, but also reducing our emissions. I will say one more thing I will give to you. To be able to do that, we did something very interesting, I must say. 2020, we sold 500 million euros sustainability-linked bond to our investors. And the success of this bond is not measured by the financial. This is measured by how much we are reducing our emissions. So we got this money in our pocket as a separate budget to invest on different programs. So what we are doing towards our green fashion initiative, we reach out our suppliers who is doing production, say, we want you to change your coal boilers to renewable systems, either thermal or solar. We would like to loan you money, we will not pay interest, but we want emissions to be reduced.
Right, very good. So your industry lives on innovation, modernization, and being ahead of the trends as well. One area of work in innovation when it comes to science. Are you in strong partnership with the necessary contribution from science, research and development in order to achieve these decarbonization targets?
Yes, and that's fundamental. We have been almost like 10, 12 years investing in small startups for different technologies or material creations. This could be either, to be able to create this circular economy, you need to invest in materials, you need to invest in progresses, and you should train your customers to do everything together. For materials, we have been investing in companies like Infinite Fiber, Circulose, Hong Kong Rita Green Machinery, where the textile recycling technologies are developing. And the reason we are doing that, if we just let these innovators to do, it's going to like 7-8 years for them. Yeah. If we put ourselves into that and adopt those materials, even though it's coming with a cost, and we are using our funding again for these extra charges, we can speed up these transitions.
Right. So we talked about 2 or 3 things now. We spoke about finance gaps and how to bridge them, and we spoke about science, R&D, and your partnerships. You know what is the third element for success to achieve the Paris Agreement based on a good discussion that I had 3 weeks ago with the Nobel Prize winner from France, Esther Duflo. She said finance, science and behavioral change. It's your impact on the people, your customers, and your presence in the street in day-to-day kind of interaction with ordinary people that you make this kind of behavioral change, not just within the industry, but across the supply chain. So I'm saying that because actually some of the updated figures from Gallup and actually even from this region, telling us worldwide, 51% only in the world see that climate change is an existential threat. 49 have their own doubts. Then when it comes to developing economies and emerging markets, the figures are even worse. We see figures of 65% to 70% saying, well, climate change is not really the biggest worry. So what are you doing about that?
Yeah. I think we should start with ourselves first, training ourselves in our own organization. One of the examples we have done this together with Ellen MacArthur Foundation. We developed a tool called Circulator. So when a designer designing a product, she also sees the impact of the product. Depends on her choices. This material versus recycled material, producing in Indonesia or producing versus Turkey. So she has a good scorecard in her hand, what choices she is making. Depends on, it's not only for carbon, but for water, for resource reduction perspective, so she got to keep herself for a product level. This is for our own awareness. Then, of course, we train ourselves with different tools like water intensity. The second step is training our suppliers. We have employed around 20 energy efficiency experts all around the world, just lend them out to our suppliers to work with them, create their energy roadmaps, which is aligned with our reduction methodology. The last thing is, of course, our customers, which is we need to take a bigger step there. So what we have done, you need to invest on different ways of reaching your customer. It could be either rentals, it could be second-hand clothing, it could be repairs. So we bought a company in Sweden called Selfie, the second-hand platform. It was only in Sweden. Now Selfie operates in 20 countries, giving our customer a chance to trade their second-hand clothing. We also come up with Take Care concept in H&M brand, which basically you bring your clothes, we do the refreshment for you. We can stitch for you, we can do cleanings, we can do dry cleanings, we offer you tools for that. So, and then we have rentals. Of course, you can rent our main prime collections. Within all these, and I think the most mature one is still second-hand. I have a great hope about second-hand clothing, and we are really investing towards that direction to work with our customers to change behavior.
Very good. Well, I have all the answers for the tough questions, so let me think of more tough questions then. Since when you had this sustainability department in H&M?
Since 1997.
And it was always called sustainability, or it had some other names like government relations, CSR?
It was CSR in the beginning, mainly focusing on minimum requirements. Mm-hmm. So maybe the first, first 10 years was about securing minimum requirement legislations. Then it was a lot of focus on social, worker conditions, factory conditions. And now, bringing more sustainability next to our business, we extended our scope, different pillars: social, nature and climate, and resource impact.
Very good. Okay, my last question. I'll try to make it very simple by giving you the offer not to answer it. You did great on the first part of the Paris Agreement, on the emissions part. Some good records and reports saying that you are doing some good investments in resilience as well. So, as you know, in the Sharm el-Sheikh here, there will be an adaptation agenda, which is basically in the business language, is resilience part. And there is going to be another one, which had been almost sensitive, added in the agenda, being discussed with the negotiators as we speak, which is basically about loss and damage. So what's your view on this file?
We change our climate strategy, climate positive to net zero for the same reason. Because, of course, you start with declaring what you have, you're working on reductions, but certain point you have to start restoring as well. Mm-hmm. Then you will come up to advocacy. Mm-hmm. So what we set ourselves till 2030, our heavily focused on investments will be on reductions. 2030, 2040, when we reach, I will not say if, when we reach 56% reductions, then it's going to journey for the other part coming 35% towards 90% reductions. Yeah. There, we already started different partnerships. We are working with Apparel Impact Coalitions, LEAF, just to understand also how could we work with more towards regenerative. These are our learnings right now. I wouldn't say extremely clear agenda base. We will take next couple of years to discover the area. Because our first focus is secure reductions in ourselves and our network, and also through the partnerships, UNFCCC. We have fantastic partners here in the room also, Global Fashion Agenda, SAC, just discover also how do we reduce our impact even further. So building on that, but we have not really set up, we are waiting with this a little bit more to come.
Excellent. I was just been texted that we went beyond the time allocated for us, but you represented your group, not just in a very fashionable way, but in a very substantive way as well. For that, I thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.